But to more recent news, guys, and something quite important because it's happening right now, coronavirus. I'm going to play this real quick.
Coronavirus is crippling restaurant and tourism operators as spooked customers and visitors stay away in droves. Stephanie Anderson tells us the pressure has already pushed some to close their doors, and there are fears many others will follow.
Gabriel Chan has been feeding Chinatown diners for 31 years. Today, every table in his restaurant is empty. That must be hard to say.
The feeling is not too good.
The owner of Shark Fin House has made the tough decision to close the doors for the foreseeable future, forcing close to 40 staff to find work elsewhere, the result of a crippling customer slump sparked by the coronavirus outbreak.
Have you ever seen anything like this before?
No, never. Never in my life, even SARS, a financial crisis. We do have trouble, but it's not as bad of this time.
Across the state, hundreds of operators are facing the same struggle. Crowds have dwindled at Phillip Island's Penguin Parade and Ballarat's Sovereign Hill. Services have been cut back on Puffin Billy and traffic is reduced along the Great Ocean Road, to name just a few. And a survey of operators this month found some are reporting an up to 80% decline in business.
Well, that's very sad. There's more, but I'm going to stop it right there.
Yeah.
So that's obviously happening at home for us. I don't know about you and T-Dot, Toronto, but it seems like something we can all relate to an extent. But for me personally, maybe because I'm a little darker skinned, I haven't been feeling it. Like there's a few jokes like at work, I don't see it.
Oh, I have a story.
Do you?
Me too. I have a story.
And that's why I brought it up. Take it away. Who wants to share? KY, you said you talked first, so.
Well, not actually in London, but 2 weeks ago when I was in Edinburgh with Carlin and Siv, it was really sad. So it was to a point, it was like, we had a pretty good day, but then it started raining like pretty hard. So we were kind of like loser mode and we're just like hanging out at a McDonald's because we're hiding from the rain. So we're like high school kids again. We're just like at McDonald's. I bought a smoothie. We're just like sitting there. And then I also stepped in a puddle. So like my whole foot was wet. It was just like a low point during the trip. And then as we're like leaving the McDonald's, we're like, oh, let's just go to the hostel. I'm going to like change my shoes. These like 16-year-old kids were like, ni hao. And we're like, at first we're like, okay, that's like typical shit that happens in Europe.
Yeah.
But then they said coronavirus.
Oh, hell no.
And then, like it took me
Were
a
they
bit
young?
to, they're like 16. They're like high school kids.
Yeah, fair
So it
enough.
took me a bit to register. And then afterwards we're talking, we're like, holy shit, we just got made fun of by high school students.
Oh my God, but that's so nice of you.
Did you say anything?
I actually didn't hear coronavirus. It was like later Siv was like debriefing. It's like, oh, you guys got like roasted by like high school kids. We're like, wait, what? And,
Man, you guys are so nice. I would have been like, what
Oh,
the
I
fuck?
know.
I actually didn't
my God, my
notice.
story.
What happened to you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you
Man,
definitely
that's
reacted
sad.
better than.
What happened with yours? You react.
So we were in Porto, and then we were like on a night out, and then this guy, he was like, "Oh, coronavirus," and
Oh
then
my
at first-
That's a joke?
God.
Yeah, it's a joke. And
Was he trying to be offensive?
well, kind of, maybe not. I don't
Oh,
know.
that's pretty shit.
But at first, I was just like, corona. And then later on, I was
Registered.
like, whoa, coronavirus? Then my friend, then me and my friend, we decided to cough on him.
No, you can't.
Oh my God.
Oh, was he like? Was
Did he run?
Genuinely?
He was like,
afraid?
no.
Oh my God.
See, so that's how I would have reacted. Well, I mean, that's
Fair,
how I
fair.
reacted.
That's a good way to react.
Yeah.
So we're
Take
already
advantage.
seeing different personalities here. No reaction. Delayed reaction. What's your story, Bob?
It's actually not my story, but
Okay.
it's something that I've heard. So, because I went in, like, because Central Line is so packed in the morning.
Wait, was this morning?
No, it wasn't this
Oh,
morning.
okay.
That's
Sorry.
another fight.
Okay. Fights with everyone.
It's
in the
always a
tube.
battle on Central.
Everyone. Yeah,
That's
Central
true.
Line all
It's
day.
savage, man. It's
Every day.
hyenas.
Yeah.
But basically, I was talking about how, because I'm Asian, I'm like, hey, I made a joke. I was like, what if I pretend to cough because I'm Asian? People would like give me like
Room in the train.
give
Yeah,
me room.
yeah.
And then as I said that, my colleague was like, actually, that actually happened. So one time he was waiting for the train, and usually it's always so packed. You don't actually have a room to stand anywhere. And then he's like, but that morning there was actually a room, and he could not understand why. And then he goes in the carriage and he sees this poor like Chinese woman, and she's quite
Older lady.
old.
Oh.
And then literally she was sitting down, and no one wanted to be near her.
Oh, that's so heartbreaking.
I
So
know.
sad.
they
Wait,
left
was this
her.
here?
That was here on
Wow.
the Central Line.
I'm a lot more self-conscious on the train now. I'm like, oh, is someone sitting next to me? Someone not, because you know.
Yeah, I actually
like,
think about
yeah,
it
yeah,
too.
yeah.
Oh,
But
there's
hey-
also when I went in an Uber last time, like when I got in, it was like a British driver, and he was like, "Oh, like where are you from?" So I'm like, "Oh, I'm from Canada." But it's like, "Oh, you know what? Like they're always like, oh, where are you actually from? Like Hong Kong." And then they're like, "Oh, do you have like friends in China? Like, did anyone get corona?" And I'm just like, I could.
Wow.
It was like a very gray area
insensitive,
because he
yeah.
was like
Yeah.
trying to be genuine. I'm like, no, like I literally haven't been to Hong Kong for years. Like I'm from Canada,
Yeah.
and he kept like pushing.
going.
Oh, they
Yeah,
always
Some
yeah.
people that I think are just oblivious.
So I
Some
can't
people, like,
tell if
socially
he was
oblivious.
like actually like genuinely
a go or-
curious or
Oh,
like
I think it's
being
just
subtle.
ignorant.
Yeah,
ignorant.
yeah.
That was the word I was trying
Yeah.
to find.
Yeah.
Ignorant.
I just find it really sad because there has been like there's already like racism happening for like obviously a lot of people, but then obviously like for Chinese, Asian in general.
Yeah.
But then the coronavirus, I feel like it just made it worse for people. It's
Yeah.
kind of like giving them an excuse to be even worse to people. Like you hear stories about how this guy hopped onto a bus and literally everyone moved away from him just because he
It's
was
sad.
Chinese.
No, that's what
Yeah.
this article says. It like literally says like, this is really sad. One boy sat down next to me, and I heard his mother say, "Don't sit next to her. She might be sick." And it really upset
damn.
me.
It's
And look,
really
this is the worst
sad.
one. When I was walking down the street, one man stopped and said to me, "Tell your people to stop eating dogs, you piece of filth."
Whoa.
Oh my god,
heavy.
That's awful.
I
Yeah.
have not seen anything to that extent here yet.
Yeah, not here.
Like
Hasn't-
directly around me, I haven't seen it.
Yeah.
Fortunately, knock on wood, but still, it's real, man.
I haven't been to
Racism.
Chinatown recently, actually. Have you guys been to
I don't
Chinatown?
think it's
Yeah,
affected,
I mean,
bro.
I went yesterday. My friend was like, "Oh, I don't want to go to Chinatown." I might go. Well, she's Asian as well. But
So it's all right. It's okay.
It's okay. Racism within us.
yeah. But I'm like, oh, I was there 5 minutes ago. It was fine, you know. Next minute.
Was it still busy?
Not as busy, but I don't know if it was because of the weather or just the day. But it could be off day.
don't see it,
I don't
man.
want
I
to
don't think
seem
it's-
to be. Yeah.
We went to Hot Pot the day of the outbreak or something. Like when it just started happening. I didn't
Yeah,
even know it
like
was
Chinese
happening.
New
We went-
Year time.
I mean, I
Yeah.
had an outbreak.
She had a she got food allergy.
oh god.
No, because
Her
I'm
face
allergic
blew up.
to to shellfish.
Oh fuck.
But then I was able to eat, like you know when you go yum cha, I was able to
Yeah.
eat those prawn dumplings. Here.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
No,
oh, I think the
it's too
allergies
fresh, bro.
passed. But then I ate way too much seafood that night because it was in the stock,
Yeah.
and people kept putting the crab sticks,
Oh, right.
the fresh prawns. They made into like fresh
the
fish balls. I ate so much of it, and people
Yeah.
stopped eating. But I was like, "Oh my god, it tastes so good." Kept eating, and eventually at night, I think when my body digested it, I started hearing my tummy. He's like, "Is that your stomach?" I'm like, yeah, but I'm thinking it's just my stomach digesting.
Yeah.
I go into the bathroom and literally hives within like
Oh,
2
God.
minutes.
It was really scary. I was
God.
panicking. I didn't know what to do. I was like, "Oh shit! Do you want me to call the ambulance? What do I do?"
Was it worth it?
Corona.
So worth it.
Yep.
I was like, wow, it tastes so good. But my face,
She's scarred.
my eye.
I've never seen it. She's
Damn.
always talked about her allergies, and it actually happened. But that was literally right after the
Yeah, it
outbreak,
was.
and
Yeah.
my mind was like, "Oh shit! What are they selling in this hot pot?"
No, but wait until I go into work the next day and they're like, how was your night? Where'd you go? Yeah, I went to a Chinese hot pot. They heard the word Chinese, they heard restaurant hot pot, and they're like, what's hot pot?
Everyone got
when you get,
freaked out.
you know,
Yeah, you just all
like
share
When you
food,
share
yeah.
when you share raw
Raw
meat,
food, yeah.
raw meats that you put into a stock. Raw meat? What?
we were asking for it. We were like feeding Corona.
Oh, hell no.
I think to be
Sad
honest
times.
though, like it depends on the country, but obviously some countries are a bit more sensitive to these things. Like I find that, for example, in general, like I find British people they're very cautious of everything.
Yeah,
Like for
they are.
example, it snows here, the tubes won't work apparently. Like if it's heavy
Is that,
snow.
is that a fact?
Yeah, my colleague said
Yeah,
like if
yeah.
it
Oh, wow.
snows,
They
heavily.
can't
Snows,
deal with the
man.
snow.
Oh,
Let's pray
no.
for snow next week. Yeah.
My friend was
Everyone work from home.
Oh, I like that. My friend was actually in Canada and she saw like students coming out of the bus going to school. I'm like, Jesus Christ, it's like heavily snowing.
normal.
Oh no, that's normal.
Yeah, so in London it's
I've
like
had like
yep.
one snow day in my entire
You're
life.
snow people.
Yeah, but this it's like up to here. And
Oh,
they're like, no,
Jesus Christ.
still go. Yeah.
Oh my god, up to here.
Yeah,
Damn.
you still got to go to school.
Do you guys have do you guys have snowmobiles mandatory?
No,
So
they're
like
huskies.
you swap your car when it snows. It's like, hey family, we're gonna take the snowmobile today.
Like the Batmobile or what?
Nah, they've got huskies.
Yeah. Yeah, we ride polar bears to school at that
Nice.
point.
Wow,
It's
such
like
a
us-
mysterious place, this Canada. I
It's
wanna
like
go
us
one
riding
day.
kangaroos.
Yeah,
Oh my god,
exactly.
could you imagine?
Yeah.
All right, so that was we really went off topic there. I'm gonna
did we
say
get to that? Oh,
I
the
have no
snow,
idea.
yeah.
Just I like it though. If you guys are listening, comment below. What do you guys think of this out? Do you reckon the media is actually just overly dramatizing this? Because for one, the coronavirus, it started in China. Has there even been any fatalities outside? Because the way I see it, there's a massive outbreak in China. There's so many people within that area. So, of course, people are sick, but all the hospitals are flooded already. Of course, some people aren't even going to get the treatment. So they'll reach to the point of possible death. Whether it reaches us here, we've still got, the access, like, NHS, but still, you'll still get to see someone. I don't think it'll ever get to a point. Do you feel like media is really blowing this shit up?
I think it's just precaution.
Yeah.
Because I think
'Cause
the last
SARS-
time the plague happened,
Was that SARS?
the plague, that was like a decade ago, like another decade ago, like 2
Like the
decades.
Black Plague or
What plague is this?
In the middle.
Did I just miss an entire plague?
Yeah.
What
No,
kind
no,
of
because
plague?
of the rats or
Sorry,
What,
not
the bubonic plague?
not decade. Sorry, and like
Like years ago, like 100 years.
like century. A century.
oh
Yeah,
yeah,
there you
yeah,
go.
so the
Yeah.
actual
Yeah,
black,
that
makes
so the
more
actual
sense,
Black
yeah.
Plague.
I'm
Yeah.
like, this is
Plague.
Bible times, bro. Some
Yeah,
plague.
yeah.
I'm
Well,
like,
you never know.
dang.
You just have to be cautious.
That's true. I don't want to because I've been talking it down, but then I stopped because I realized I might jinx myself. And next minute we got like some Trainer Busan type shit.
Oh,
Yeah.
Like, I just
hell
think
no.
it's
That's what
better-
I'm thinking. I'm like,
yeah, no.
No, I think
because
that-
it's coming to a.
No, I think the word is just to be cautious. Like, don't
Be
be like irrationally scared,
Yeah.
but like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
like wash your hands. Like,
Yeah,
just don't
wash
like,
your hands.
hygiene.
yeah, don't
Like
cough
that-
on people.
yeah.
Like, it's just like I don't know.
Like the
If you're actually sick,
don't cough on people. Except if you want to like revenge.
Unless it's
yeah.
revenge
Unless they were a
against
sick
dick
at all,
to you.
so-
it's
Yeah,
revenge against racism.
yeah,
It's
no,
fine.
yeah, that's
Oh
fine.
yeah, the Revenge
it's
of the
fine.
Oh my god, that's a movie title
Revenge
already.
against racism.
Yeah, movie title.
The Asians have coughed.
Lisa.
Lisa the savior.
That's me, guys.
Amazing. Thanks, guys. Comment
But
below
yeah,
what
wash
you
your
guys think.
hands,
Yeah, sorry.
everyone.
Yeah. Wash your hands.
Yeah.
Make sure you
be clean,
hand
be a normal person.
sanitize.
Yeah.
Don't touch your face.
Don't touch your face.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
apparently wash your hands for 20 seconds at least.
Damn,
And when
that's
you
a long time.
when you do, wash your hand with soap.
That's standard, man. That's standard.
I mean,
Not just during
sometimes
these
I don't know about-
It ain't about me.
Are we airing some dirt? No.
no,
Okay.
no.
Later.
Another episode.
All right, offline.
The offline,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
aftercast, the
yeah.
aftercast.